and he's ready to go. Noodle on his left, Jess on his right. Hey, hold up, don't start a fight. He's got you covered with all the sports. Don't fret, he's wearing shorts. It's time for Waking Jake in the morning, Waking Jake at night. Jake sucks.
Hey Bakers, what's up? What's going on, everybody? Hope you had a fantastic weekend. The first weekend of October as playoff baseball was among us. Kids still playing that this weekend. At least a couple series. Baseball, most of it's been decided. I think there's been I don't want to say lackluster, but I think the word is lackluster, that there would be, 2 or 3 really big series or teams playing each other that truly mattered. Between the NL wild card, we had some of that, but that looks like it kind of had a sad ending. The series of the weekend in baseball, the series that had to be talked about, was the Braves and the Mets. The New York Mets have run the National League East all year. It's a change of tone. It's Buck Showalter. It's Max Scherzer. Going back to last year, it's Lindor. What Pete Alonso has come to be on this team. Jacob deGrom has an argument to be the most dominant starting pitcher we've ever seen when he's right. And the richest owner in baseball, Steve Cohen, and the rest of their free agent and trade acquisitions even, Jake, this year as they teed off against the Atlanta Braves. And we've talked about it on here. We've talked about it on Talking Baseball elsewhere. The Braves are one of the most underrated franchises in sports. Go look at their year-over-year win-loss record over the past 25, 30 years. I mean, you go back to Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox, and then, Freddie Freeman and Peter Moylan, and now this team. The Braves are a really well-run organization that had a culmination last year, special year, where they won the World Series. They are also treating the sport differently as a whole with the way they're locking up young talent. Young, thick Austin Riley. Michael Harris Deuce comes out of nowhere this year. Acuna, Albies, Matt Olson. Their team is set up that they're starting to talk and think about crazy stuff down there. Yet, if the Braves and their new team could take this division from them, that would be impactful. Like, we are the New York Mets. We have the richest owner. We will sign Max Scherzer when he's a free agent and give him the most money. It all came down to Atlanta this weekend, where the Mets had to win one game. Because if they won one game, just one, the Mets and the Braves would have been tied for the division lead. But the Mets would have had the tiebreaker. And I keep saying would have, which means you already know what happens. And you already do know what happened. If you're listening to a sports show because you're a sports fan. The Braves swept them. The Mets had a lead early in each game. They pushed one across. And that's, I don't want to overstep my boundaries with that because, I think the first game it was 1-0. That was their lead into like the second. Fried versus deGrom. Max Fried, one of the best pitchers in baseball, one of the best lefty pitchers in baseball, arguably the best, versus Jacob deGrom. Kyle Wright versus Max Scherzer. I keep joking on Talking Baseball that Kyle Wright is the 1999 Cy Young Award winner. 20 wins, low enough ERA that when wins still matter, he would have it. Versus Max Scherzer, an all-time pitcher, all-time starting 5 rotation argument guy in Max Scherzer. Charlie Morton versus Chris Bassett. The Braves battle. They get 3 home runs off of DeGrom in the first game. Dansby Swanson. My guy Matt Olson with a massive series as well. And young, thick Austin Riley. All 3 of those guys were struggling in September, and they had massive series. The environment in Atlanta was awesome. Those Braves fans were ready to go. The lit up chop when pitchers are leaving. I realized the chop part of it, that'll kind of never be cool. The lit up part was cool. The fact they turn the lights off and everyone gets their cell phone light going. That is cool. And then I don't want to say the underrated part of the Atlanta Braves, but it's a part of the team you don't really get to. And it's their bullpen that was so special for them last year. Kenley Jansen, who talk about a dude that probably isn't respected properly. 390 career saves. He's leading the National League in saves this year. He was the Dodgers closer. And it's not like they were just a team and he was a guy, which kind of brings me to Raisel Iglesias. You know, Raisel Iglesias is nasty. If I could have someone's pitch mix in baseball, I think it would be him. He's got an awesome two-seamer. He's got a perfect changeup off of it with a nasty slider. He's disgusting, and go check out his stats with the Braves. I texted Peter Moylan, and I said, I don't want to say this in a rude way to Raisel Iglesias, but if I had his pitch mix, I think people would be talking about me, Raisel Iglesias, and Mariano Rivera as the 2 best closers ever. I think his stuff is that good. And he said, check out his stats on the Braves. I said, okay, Peter. Raisel Iglesias with the Braves, 27 games, 25.1 innings, a 0.36 ERA. So I don't know if the Braves have tapped into something else. I don't know if it's playing games that matter. You know, Raisel Iglesias was with Cincinnati and then Anaheim. With the Atlanta Braves, let me repeat that, a 0.36 ERA. He is disgusting. Unhittable when he's right, and he was embarrassing some Mets hitters. Like I said, Kenley Jansen, this guy we debate, should he be the closer? He's struggling. He's pitched in a lot of big games, and he closed out every game this series, including 7 pitches on Sunday night. And the big fella, there's just angles and body parts everywhere that makes him just a crazy uncomfortable at bat. He throws one pitch, throws a cutter, same pitch that other guy threw. You know, that first unanimous Hall of Famer, Mariano Rivera, that when that pitch is right, it's a problem. And Ken Lee, I mean, it just doesn't even look like he should be on a mound. He looks like too big. Jersey, you're almost like, that's so much cloth. He's just a massive human. And the arms and legs and the timing and the cutters coming at you. I know when it gets messy with Ken Lee, it feels like it gets messy quick. But he also dominated and ended games along with Raisel Iglesias, along with A.J. Minter, along with Colin McHugh, along with Dylan Lee. Tyler Matzik did not pitch in this series. One of their postseason heroes from last year. Jesse Chavez did, and he was traded away for Raisel Iglesias, and then he came back. Dylan Lee, young guy who got a World Series start last year, and we were doing like a whole, how are these guys getting playoff starts? It was an opener role, basically, but Dylan Lee looked nasty out of their bullpen. Kyle Wright's had an amazing year, like I said. 1999 Cy Young winner, Kyle Wright. Max Fried is great. Charlie Morton, when it matters, he's going to make it matter. And the Braves lineup in and of itself, I mean, Michael Harris, too. Go look at the stats. He's been one of the best players in baseball. Austin Riley, is probably going to finish with like a top 5 NL MVP vote. Matt Olson, he's had a couple slides this year, but his numbers are getting back to Matt Olson. He's trending the right direction, if you'd like to say it that way. And how about Dansby Swanson? I think he was on slump watch coming into this series, or last week. He's an upcoming free agent. There's a lot of different ways to dice up Dansby Swanson's stats. You a WAR person? He's at 5.6 WAR. He's going to be around a 6 WAR season for Dansby Swanson, a shortstop, 28 years old, heading into free agency. That's big-time stuff. 25 homers, also big-time stuff. 96 RBI, yep. A 778 OPS. You go, okay, this year that's actually pretty good. It's a 116 OPS plus. Last year he had similar stats, but last year was such a hitting year by the end that he had 27 homers and a 760 OPS, and that was an OPS plus of 99. Slightly below league average. I looked at some of his throwing numbers, and you're saying, that's weird, Jake. Why the hell would you do that? His arm strength for shortstop ranks really low. And with upcoming free agency, there was a guy who was of similar throwing ilk, Trevor Story, who was forced to play second base next year. So I asked Peter Moylan, who's been on Wake and Jake, I was like, is Dansby going to have to go to second base soon? Like, is the arm strength a thing? He said, not at all. He's not thinking about that for his next contract. Dansby made a couple unbelievable plays. One that was right before a Mets 2-out rally that would have made it a lot different, and Mets could have put up a crooked number. He made a play, the leadoff hitter, Brandon Nimmo, the Mets, their season on the line, and here comes the top of their lineup. Brandon Nimmo gives Ken Lee the best at bat that inning. He hits a hard ball, 105 to shortstop. It takes a wicked hop. Not a lot of shortstops would have stayed with it. It kind of hits Dansby in the chest. He somehow gets a grip on it, fires, gets Nimmo out. If that ball, if there's one more bobble, Brandon Nimmo is safe. And you're talking about Lindor, McNeil, Alonso. Runner on first, tying run at the plate, season on the line, a season that's been so important to the Mets franchise, to the upcoming couple years of the Mets. And Kenley Jansen, his third day in a row pitching. Teams don't normally do that, but that's how big this series was. Could have changed everything. Dansby homered off of DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bassett. He's an upcoming free agent. I don't know where he's going to go. Some team is going to throw the bag at him. It's going to be interesting. There's a little bit of Marcus Semien in here. Like his career stats, he's an OPS plus of 95. So, how well does that bode for the next couple years? I don't know. He's been really good the last 3 years. Also, his numbers get held down by his first couple years in the league where his hitting has clearly taken a leap. A team is going to throw the bag at him, and depending what he does this postseason and what he just did this last weekend, a team is going to talk themselves into Dansby Swanson and locking up their shortstop position at least for the next 4 years with maybe a slide to second or something like that. But he is a special ball player, and Peter Moylan, more credit to him. He did baseball today on Friday before this series. And Trevor Plouffe asked him, game on the line, who would you want up for the Atlanta Braves? And a reminder, Austin Riley, easily the best full hitting season for this team. Michael Harris, too, has done unreal stuff for a young ball player. Ronald Acuna Jr., if you were ranking people on pure talent-wise on the Braves, he's probably one. Matt Olson, date my daughter, I trust him. Peter Moylan said with confidence, Dansby Swanson. And I think he was proven right this weekend. The Braves sweep them. The other side of this is the New York Metropolitans. And my goodness, your heart has to sink. I know I was letting some tweets rip that, were just honest tweets. I'd say them about any team. It is pretty Metsy, right? This weekend you had to win one game. Division rival. Don't get me wrong, the Braves are an awesome team. Awesome team. I think if I had to power rank National League teams, the Braves would be my number one. I would go Braves, Dodgers, Mets, I think. I'm going to rethink that over the next couple days. The Mets, it's just got to be hurting you. It's got to be hurting you. Nothing I'm saying there is eye-opening. They're missing Starling Marte. I think there were parts of the Mets that got exploited a little bit. We saw them. They called up Francisco Alvarez before this series to be their lefty masher. To be getting his first at-bats in this situation is brutal. Brutal. And the broadcast was being tough on him because he's a big swing. He swings a lot. He's not an OBP guy, which at the MLB level, it's hard to hang around if you're one of those guys because pitchers can't exploit that. He had a couple good at-bats, but at the end of the day, he ended up getting exploited. I saw Mark Vientos, another big prospect for them, 22 years old. He was their pinch hitter in a couple big spots. If they had Starling Marte or Darren Ruff wasn't hurt and had been achieving, you wonder what those at-bats look like in different spots. They got to DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bassett enough that I don't know. If you're the Mets, you go back home, you're playing Washington. Unless they sweep and the Braves get swept, they're going to the wild card. So let me tell you, the Mets are going to the wild card. You're going to have 3 games at home. Probably versus the Padres, or a good team. I think the Mets are better. I do think the Padres match up generally well with the Mets. The Mets' strength is high-end starting pitching and the top of their lineup with Edwin Diaz in the back. The Padres, Darvish, Snell, Musgrove, Josh Hader at the end of their bullpen, and it's Soto and Machado. Profar's had a really nice year, same with Crone, Drury, and Bell, but I think you could do that with, some of the Mets guys, too. Eddie Escobar has been really hot lately. Is that a Brandon Drury? I have no idea. In a 3-game set, nobody has an idea. Because you can hit 3 line drives right at the center fielder, and you're 0 for 3, and someone with 2 broken bat singles was 2 for 3. Expected stats matter less. Hard T on the end there. If you're the Mets, you can still salvage this. You get 3 games in City. That was what I was asking myself this morning, is if these 3 games had been in Citi Field, do I think there would have been a different result? I think so. A raucous environment. DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett at home. That's not how the schedule played out. And that's nobody's business, unfortunately. So if you're the Mets, you've got San Diego that's kind of been drifting for a while. We haven't been doing much Padres talk. Unless there's some funny business with them and the Phillies, they're going to be playing the Padres. Even if you're playing the Phillies, that team, and you got to be better than that team. Although, high-end starting pitching, Bryce Harper against the Mets. I don't think you'd want that smoke. I don't think you're going to get that smoke.
The math has Mets, Padres. I was talking with Jolly Olive. They're recording a new Shea station. Should be a good listen, whether you like the Mets or not, I think. You were saying, I definitely would prefer the Phillies as long as we win. Otherwise, it's the most heartbreaking thing. And, just when it comes to neither matchup they can get, they neither are pleasant.
No.
They're saying the same thing about if they get the Mets. But
Yeah, the National League is stacked. There's really
all these teams, good top-end talent. These three teams that we're talking about, Mets, Padres, Phillies, top-end talent,
even
depth you trust, high-end starting pitching.
the National League, the storyline for a little bit is there's going to be one good team that misses the playoffs, and it's looking like it's going to be the Milwaukee Brewers. By the way, all of this brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook, they're the official sports betting partner of the NFL, and they still got the MLB bets going. I told you guys the other day, I looked in my account, I had a little extra coin. Pirates under, cashed. Yankees over, cashed. St. Louis to make the playoffs and to win the division, cash. And if you want to get into the football, which we're doing our JM League, you could bet $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. They also have their same-game parlays. Last night was a layup. Oh, my God. Why was Tampa favored over Kansas City? I'll never know. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code JOHNBOY to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code JOHNBOY only at the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Do you know how deep we are in BBD?
21 minutes.
Perfect. The Milwaukee Brewers are looking like they're going to miss out on the playoffs. Man, that Hader trade at the deadline, it seemed off at the time, and now they're 2 games out with Philly with the tiebreaker. They're done. They're done. Philly's got to win a game. Milwaukee would have to win all of their games. It's pretty much done. And the story in the American League has kind of been the opposite. It's kind of been like the Rays haven't felt right all year. Like the AL Central feels mid. And there hasn't been even another team really approaching the wild card in a while since the White Sox were still thought that maybe they could kick into gear. In the National League, Mets, you just made it so much tougher for yourselves. But I said this before, and I'm not going to walk away from it now. Take care of the Padres. 2 or 3 games, I don't care. It's in city. You still have DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bassett. That's been the whole thing, right? You take care of that, and then you face the Dodgers, who are incredible. You know, they set Dodgers records this year. Their lineup is unreal. But if you talk about potential matchup and what everyone's fear is with the Dodgers, yes, their starting pitcher is good. Urias, Kershaw, and then we'll see if Gonsolin is back. Tyler Anderson has been really good. Name power-wise for starting pitchers, it's a different level. And if you can buck a series, you know, if you could split those first 2 in L.A., and then you have Scherzer and DeGrom lined up, 5 games set, you're back in city, the formula is still there. I, for Mets fans, am more scared about the Padres series. Because what has a chance to be Metsy? Losing the division, and then being in the wild card, and then losing the wild card at home? That feels Metsy. If you can win that wild card at home, and then you just got to steal 1 baseball game to try to flip the script and have a chance in city with maybe the 2 people that are supposed to make your team special going, I would lean into that a little bit. Let's get past San Diego.
I did feel bad when, again, in the prior conversation I had with Jolly when he was, because I hadn't thought about this for the Mets. I'm not a Mets fan, but we were sitting there, yeah, now we got to play the Dodgers if we get past them. It's like, oh, man.
You made
the difference there. Tough.
You were the 2 seed with the bye, waiting to welcome your opponent. And now, it changes everything. And can it look as bad as possible? Yes. Padres come in, they do their work. I mean, Snell's been lights out, Darvish, and you're sitting there and, oh my God, it's a disaster. It could. You win that series. If they win their wild card, I'm probably taking them over the Dodgers. I believe in the Mets and the Braves as the two best teams in the National League. No, I don't. That's a lie. I think they are at the same level as the Dodgers. Looking at it now, look at Mets, Braves, Phillies. They're all going to make the dance. I think they're good teams. Padres are a good team. They have been missing their best player. I think if the Padres had their best player, we'd be talking about them in a different light. The Giants stunk this year. My Snakes are pesky, but they're my Snakes. The Rocks are the Rocks. I think the Dodgers are just as good as the Braves and the Mets, and I think in a playoff series, anything can happen. And when anything can happen, I know the Mets had to win one game in Atlanta this weekend, and they did not. And it was a disaster. But if you can get to LA and win one game, you have a real chance to get locked up with the Braves again, which, sign me up for that twice on Tuesdays, because that would be intense. The Mets with the fuel from this regular season series and the whole year, and what Mets Braves is, it's a real rivalry. It's very much a big brother and a little brother, but it's good stuff. Honestly, that was the big storyline around baseball. Judge is still doing the home run race. He got walked a little too much for our liking. Come on, Orioles. He's going to Texas, and I was just texting Taylor Hearn. I said, I need you fellas throwing strikes. He said, LOL, who wouldn't throw strikes? I said, most of the Orioles. He said, if I get him, I'm going to throw 4 straight balls and look at the camera and wink at you. And I said, you better not, Hunch. He said, okay, I'm going to take it to 3-2. So I said 39 pitches Friday. You're ready to go? He said, easily ready to go. So I don't know. Aaron Judge is tied with 61. It's a conversation nobody's really had yet, and let's not. But he's kind of got to get to 62. Otherwise, 61 is still 61, and I don't know.
With how much time he had left after 60, 61 feels so mid.
Yeah, it's just not. We're not going to talk about it. He's going to hit one in Texas. That's going to be sweet. Update. Me, Joe's are officially full-blown friends with Aaron Judge's wife, Sam. Saw her at Friday's game. We gave her a wave, very much a passing by wave. She got out of the way, came over, gave us a hug.
Wow.
Me and Joe's were like, we stopped breathing. We were like...
She's hugged Aaron Judge.
Imagine if we were like kids and you saw someone hug like Jeter's girlfriend or wife. It's the same shit. So, talking baseball coming up with Trev, myself, and BBD. As we dive in more into the playoff situations and what it's looking like. I'm sure we'll be doing some of that on Wake and Jake